With agriculture, we also gained cities, as I said, and with the cities came a new specialization of tasks. Before that, people were pretty much generalists, good at a great number of things. There might have been one or two people who were really excellent at something or other, and so they got to do more of it, but pretty much you got to do whatever was needed until cities, and then we started seeing, well, what eventually would become the rise of the guilds and the professions. That's an offshoot. We also started seeing the demise of the goddess religions and the rise of the war gods as primary male war gods rather than the fertile goddesses of life. We also missed the gods of life at that point, by the way. Next huge thing in technology was the invention of the wheel and cuneiform writing, the first writing by the Sumerians. And as I write here, abstract thought takes a mighty leap. That was about 5,500 years ago. If you are interested, if I had more time with you, I would have you read the myth of Inanna and we would talk about it. If you're interested, check it out. The whole Gilgamesh saga, I think, shows the enormous phase shift in consciousness that occurred around this time. It's the earliest known piece of writing known to humans, the earliest one that we found anyway. And it shows the shift from goddess worship to the worship of the male action figure, hero, and the attendant gods that go with it. And the emphasis on war, and also you see the beginning of burning down forests, things like that. Really big changes. Around 3,500 to 4,000 years ago, we got the earliest alphabet in the Palestine region and the Indus Valley of India. It's also the same time that megaliths were being built in Europe. Great stone things. I'm just saying this to kind of place where we're at. And the idea of an alphabet is yet another step of abstract thought, right? So first, you have very concrete thinking where you point to the bison. There it is. There's a bison. And then you get the word bison. That's one step away. Bison means, when you say, oh, bison, that means that animal over there. And now we've got writing, where a symbol means the word, which means what you're pointing to. Each one of these is a tremendous change in our collective consciousness. And some might argue that each takes us further into our heads and then further away from direct primal relationship with whatever we're encountering. Not to say it's bad, just saying it's really different. There was an enormous shift at what was called the Axial Age. Around 2,200 to 3,200 years ago, the classical religions, what we call now the classical religions, all spontaneously emerged. It must have been something amazing going on in the collective conscious. You know, if you like the idea of the 100th monkey theory, this is one of those times when there were a couple of hundred monkeys. Man, something was up because all of these religions emerged. Greek thought, the classical Greek thought that we see as the fundament of Western civilization. Now, Taoism, Confucianism, not Islam, that's a mistake, Zoroastrianism, Buddhism, and Judaism, from which Islam and Christianity sprang. Monotheism begins. Before, it looks like from the stories, all of the West had the same kind of thing that most indigenous people have, which was a plethora of spirits, gods, deities, demigods, place spirits. Anyway, there's a lot of them running around. And just as an aside, I've seen references to Jehovah as a snake-footed god, the Anglipede. Things have really, really changed at this point. And by the way, one of many. Excuse me just for a second here. Okay. By the way, at that point, one of the reasons this is so important is during the Axial Age, the world's urban population nearly doubled. Sorry, not in the Axial Age. in the years 600 to 450 BC, after the Axial Age, when all of these religions were really getting very strong. Nearly doubled. This is a great fundamental shift from a rural existence to an urban existence. And we had to adapt quite a bit. It led to, well, a tremendous outgrowth in cultural stuff that we really enjoy now today. The different kinds of arts, the great academies of thought in Rome and Greece and Ireland, among others. Of course, these things are, by the way, these things are also going on long before that in parts of Asia, and undoubtedly in South America, although I don't know about it. I'm just focusing on the West because Western thought is the dominant culture now that's pretty much taken over, and that's threatening our continued existence, honestly, if the unspoken assumptions that we've inherited from the West don't get changed. Well, we're in trouble. So that's why I'm focusing on that, because ecopsychology needs to address these particular dominant paradigms. And there are answers from these other cultures, as well as probably some problematic stuff. I mean, you know, as an aside, there are some troublesome things from all cultural backgrounds. I suppose we wouldn't really enjoy living in the times of Montezuma and being sacrificed to the volcano god either, right? But I digress. One thing I want to say that might be surprising to you is that in the 3rd century BCE, before the Christian era, that's not that long ago, in Athens and Rome, which we consider, of course, to be the fundament of our most important philosophy, at least the way it's taught in universities, the world at that point was still seen as an intelligent organism with a soul. We were not separate. Human beings were not seen as separate. It was still a very animistic worldview. Rome was pagan, and Greece was very invested in what Plato called the spiritus mundi, the spirit of the world. Even the Western canon is rooted in deeply ecopsychologically sane ideas. Heraclitus, he's our guy, by the way, the one who said, you can't step in the same river twice. Pantare, everything flows. You can't step in the same river twice because it's not the same river and you're not the same person. He was very focused on movement, on process over product. He wasn't a solid materialist thinker of the sort that we are going to see coming up next. Let me see what time it is. How much time we've gone? 8 minutes. All right. I'll just stop and we'll do another one. We'll move on to the European Middle Ages next.